They mocked me, laughed behind my back, and left me broken. But I watched, I waited, and when the time came, my comeback shattered everything they ever thought they knew about me. No mercy, no warning, just cold, perfect revenge. It was the annual charity gala at the Savoy in London, a night where high society mingled in sparkling gowns and tailored suits. I stood in the corner, invisible, as whispers followed me like a shadow. They laughed. Colleagues, so-called friends, even people I had trusted. Their smiles cruel, their jokes at my expense, sharp and biting. "Did you see his presentation? He's a disaster," one woman whispered, smirking. I felt my chest tighten, the sting of humiliation slicing through me. But I didn't leave. Not yet. I had learned patience the hard way. Earlier that day, I had received an anonymous message. "They think you're nothing. Prove them wrong." At first, I thought it was a joke, but then I realized it was an echo of my own resolve. I had spent years building my skills in secret, honing every weakness they had mocked. Tonight, I would be the one in control. The laughter that once humiliated me would become the soundtrack to their downfall. As the orchestra played softly in the background, I sipped my drink, scanning the room. Faces I knew well, each masked in arrogance, blind to the storm brewing behind my calm eyes. The night was young, but by its end, nothing would ever be the same. My name is Alex Harper, a rising architect in London. On the surface, I seemed ordinary, polite, reserved, even quiet, the kind of person people overlooked. But beneath that exterior was a mind sharp enough to notice every slight, every whisper, every laugh directed at me. The people at my firm were ruthless. Charlotte, with her perfect hair and sharper tongue, loved to belittle me during meetings. James, the self-proclaimed prodigy, never missed an opportunity to point out my mistakes. And Rachel, who pretended to be my friend, always sided with the mockers when I wasn't around. They didn't know I had been working on a confidential project in secret, a design that could revolutionize the skyline of London. While they flaunted their success and mocked my failures, I quietly collected my blueprints, presentations, and proof of concept, polishing every detail. My revenge wouldn't be impulsive. It had to be calculated, precise, and unforgettable. At home, my life was calm but focused. Long hours at my drafting table, late-night research and strategy planning had made me isolated, but I welcomed it. Each insult they'd thrown, every snide comment at the gala, fueled my determination. Emily, my supportive sister, had encouraged me to stay patient, reminding me that the world eventually notices those who persevere. Tonight, I would show them that patience isn't to weakness. It is preparation for the ultimate comeback. In the weeks before the gala, I moved like a ghost through the firm, silent, unseen, but always watching. I studied their habits, their petty routines. Charlotte's habit of leaving her laptop unlocked, James's habit of forwarding drafts without checks, Rachel's habit of bragging about inside knowledge. I built a careful map of their weaknesses and the company's internal blind spots. Night after night, I refined my design, then created a second set of files, clean, flawless, and impossible to ignore. I also planted little breadcrumbs, polished presentations left in shared folders, an anonymous tip to a rival firm, and seeded comments on industry forums hinting at a breakthrough coming from an unexpected source. My plan was to make their mockery fracture from the inside. On the day of the reveal, nerves thrummed in my chest like a low drum. The office buzzed with the usual hubbub. Confidence, laughter, the clink of coffee cups. I stayed calm, masking the storm. Then, as the partners gathered to review the quarterly presentation, I triggered the moment I'd been waiting for. The internal projection system switched, and the room fell silent. My design filled the screens, renderings, feasibility reports, patent-ready notes, everything they'd dismissed as a joke. Faces turned white. Charlotte gaped. James stammered. The humiliation would have been enough, but I had one more move. I played a brief, silent clip showing messages where they'd mocked me, where they'd predicted I'd never amount to anything. The laughter died. The room was frozen, eyes wide, mouths open as the full scope of my work sank in. Every client proposal, every internal review, every sketch they had dismissed as trivial was now undeniable proof of my skill. Charlotte's smirk faltered, James's confident posture collapsed, and Rachel's fake cheerfulness disappeared completely. Whispers began spreading, each word slicing sharper than any insult they had ever thrown at me. I felt a quiet satisfaction, a cold thrill that years of being underestimated had finally reached their breaking point. I didn't stop there. The email I had drafted earlier went out to key clients, industry influencers, and a handful of rival firms. Within hours, messages poured in praising the unknown genius behind the Harper project, asking for meetings, interviews, and collaborations. Meanwhile, my colleagues could do nothing to claim credit. The evidence was unmistakably mine. Their attempts to explain, to defend, to argue only made it worse. Every lie they had used to undermine me came back like a boomerang, leaving them exposed, humiliated, and powerless. I watched from a distance, maintaining the calm exterior, even as their panic and confusion escalated. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice, about proving that talent and patience always outlast arrogance and cruelty. Every suppressed laugh, every mocking glance they had given me came rushing back to them tenfold. The storm of betrayal had passed, but the aftermath, the complete reversal of power, was only beginning. By the end of the week, the fallout was total. Charlotte had been reprimanded by the board for mishandling client communications. James's promotion was indefinitely postponed, and Rachel was quietly transferred to another branch. The gossip, once hushed and sneaky, had erupted into a full-blown storm of industry chatter. My name was on everyone's lips, not as the quiet underdog, but as the mastermind who had turned ridicule into triumph. I had planned every step meticulously, but the real satisfaction came from watching their faces as reality hit. The people who had mocked me, belittled my work, and laughed behind my back were powerless, exposed, and humiliated. I didn't gloat openly. My calm exterior masked the intensity of my emotions. Instead, I waited for private moments. Charlotte stormed past me in the hallway, her eyes wide, lips pressed into a thin line. James avoided any glance my way, muttering excuses that fell flat. Rachel tried to smile but stumbled in her words. Each reaction was a quiet victory, a confirmation that the tide had turned irrevocably. Then came the final stroke. I submitted my project to the Royal Institute of British Architects. Within hours, it was shortlisted for national recognition, an achievement that ensured my work and my name would be remembered for years. The irony was delicious. The very people who had tried to bury me in ridicule were now witnessing my legacy rise, untouchable and celebrated. My revenge wasn't cruel, it was complete, permanent, and undeniable. The weeks that followed were surreal. I walked through the office with quiet confidence, no longer invisible, no longer underestimated. Colleagues who had once laughed at me now nodded respectfully, some offering apologies I barely acknowledged. My work was celebrated publicly, and invitations to speak at conferences and collaborate with elite firms arrived steadily. The sting of their mockery had faded, replaced by a calm satisfaction that comes from proving yourself beyond doubt. Yet, it wasn't just about professional triumph. I had discovered a strength I didn't fully know I possessed. The patience to plan, the clarity to act strategically, and the courage to endure humiliation without losing focus. The laughter that once haunted me now served as fuel, reminding me of the person I refused to remain, the underestimated, overlooked, powerless Alex. Evenings were quieter, reflective. I sometimes sat by the Thames, watching the city lights shimmer across the water. thinking about the people who had doubted me. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. They had shaped my journey, unknowing architects of the comeback I had engineered. Revenge had been sweet, but growth, mastery, and recognition tasted even sweeter. Which part of my story shocked you the most, or inspired you the most? Comment below with your thoughts and suggestions. I'd love to hear how this story of betrayal, patience, and ultimate revenge resonated with you. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and like the channel for more interesting stories like this one.